Bend, Oregon, a tranquil city with a low crime rate. Campus security guards are a reassuring presence for the college town's 10,000 students. But what happens when a friendly face turns out to be hiding a deadly obsession? A missing student, a desperate man, and a multi-state crime spree. This is the story of the disappearance of Kaylee Sawyer.
She's kept screaming, and I just saw her forever.
Kaylee Sawyer had lived in the picturesque town of Bend, Oregon all her life. She was from a large and blended family. When Kaylee was young, her parents separated and both went on to remarry. As a result, she was the oldest of 5 siblings and the shining light of family gatherings. She was also an enrolled member of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, South Dakota, the great-great-great-granddaughter of Chief Joseph Forebear. In 2016, at the age of 23, Kaylee was working as a dental assistant at Opry Dental. She had also re-enrolled at Central Oregon Community College and was living near campus with her boyfriend of 2 years, Cameron Reimhofer. Her parents could see her having a future with him, and that future looked bright. On July 23, 2016, Kaylee dressed up in a black dress and brown boots to attend a bachelorette party in downtown Bend. Her friends and boyfriend would later remember the green purse she had been carrying that night. When Kaylee headed out that hot summer night, no one could have predicted she would not return home. Several bars and a few drinks later, Kaylee's friends spotted her dancing with a man who was not her boyfriend. At 4 minutes past midnight, she contacted Cameron asking him to pick her up. When he arrived, they fought in the car. Cameron was worried about Kaylee's reckless behavior. The day before, she had texted her father saying she had been busy trying to figure things out and that she was in a bit of a hole. The fight escalated, and when the couple arrived at their apartment at 12:14 a.m., Cameron suggested Kaylee take some time to cool off. He went upstairs to wait at their apartment while Kaylee took a walk, something she had done countless times before when things had gotten heated. It was a safe neighborhood. He had no reason to think she wouldn't be back a few minutes later, calmer and ready to talk things through. But by 12:24 a.m., Kaylee had not returned. Worried, Cameron went downstairs to look for her. She was not there, and at 12:30 he texted her asking, "Where are you? Please come home and talk to me." They argued over text for a while before he said, "Please don't do this to me. I apologize for being upset when I picked you up. I just drove up and down College Way really slow. I didn't see you, and I didn't know where else to go. Just come back." He was searching for her desperately now, but she did not want to talk to him. Her last message to him at 1 a.m. read, "Are you kidding? Because that's BS. Goodbye. Phone off." He replied, "Kaylee, please." Cameron did not find Kaylee that night despite trawling the roads near the couple's apartment. Eventually, he had to assume she was taking the night to cool off. Reluctantly heading home, he expected to hear from her in the morning. But the reconciliation he was desperately hoping for was destined never to happen. On the morning of July 24th, Cameron woke up to Kaylee's side of the bed still worryingly empty. At 9 a.m., he tried to call her, but she did not pick up. He went to her friend's house, hoping Kaylee had gone there to stay the night. Kaylee's car, a Subaru Impreza, was parked where she'd left it the day before, but Kaylee was not there. This was when Cameron decided to call Kaylee's parents. It was a Sunday, and Kaylee's father, Jamie, was in church when the call came in. But he picked up, telling his wife afterwards, "Cam can't find Kaylee." There were no sightings of Kaylee all morning. Her phone kept going to voicemail, and even her mother, Julie, could not get hold of her, something highly unusual in the close-knit family. In the early afternoon, Cameron made the decision to call 911.
Dispatch, how can I help you?
Hi. I'm not sure if this is quite the right number to call. Last night I got home from the bars with my girlfriend. She got upset at me and ran off. And I chased her and wasn't able to find her, and I still haven't heard from her. Her phone's off. I called all her family and they haven't heard from her, so I'm wondering what you recommend I do.
We can put in a call and we can have officers or deputies look for her.
Okay.
Where was she last seen at?
College Way. Alpine Meadows apartment complex. It's like at the top of College Way. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I guess she said her phone was about to die, and then I couldn't get a hold of her after that. I haven't heard from her since.
Okay. Any idea where she would go, or?
I don't know. I figured she'd go where her car was to her best friend's or her mom's, and I've been over to both. Talked to her dad, and I just haven't heard anything from anybody knowing this.
Okay. Does she go to, like, have a job that she needs to be out that she missed or anything like that?
Not today. She has work tomorrow at Aubrey Dental.
Okay. And any diagnosed mental or physical health issues?
No, I know of.
However, Julie told police Kaylee had a history of epilepsy, suggesting she was an at-risk person. This meant that the police might treat her case with urgency rather than waiting a day or two for Kaylee to return of her own accord.
Dispatch, how can I help you?
Kaylee had had just one seizure many years earlier, and the condition was well managed. But Julie felt no guilt about exaggerating. She knew in her gut that something sinister had happened to her daughter. The first 48 hours are the most critical for locating a missing person. Julie's mother's instinct told her something was very wrong. As the search for Kaylee Sawyer continued, Julie would sadly be proven right. The police talked to Kaylee's family, friends, and Cameron. As her boyfriend and someone who had rowed with Kaylee the night of her disappearance, Cam was under the spotlight. But officers soon ruled him out. Lieutenant Devin Lewis believed that Cam truly had no idea where she was. Next, they spoke to the stranger Kaylee had danced with in the bar. Had she snuck back to meet him after her fight with Cameron? It was a tantalizing theory. The man admitted to flirting with Kaylee, but he insisted he hadn't seen her again after she left the bar. With no leads and no firm suspects, the police were stumped. Perhaps Kaylee's disappearance really was her own choice. Was she taking a few days away to figure things out as she'd told her father? The test, they decided, would be to wait and see if she showed up for work the next day. Dedicated to her job as a dental assistant, if Kaylee had missed a day, the police and her loved ones could be sure that she was in trouble. As the morning of Monday, the 25th of July dawned, so did the horrible realization that Kaylee was still missing. That very same morning, another Oregon woman woke up to a horrifying revelation. Isabel Ponce Lara was a rookie cop who had spent an ordinary weekend with her husband, Edwin Lara. Lara was a security guard for Central Oregon Community College. He'd got home in the early hours of Sunday morning from working his night shift as a campus safety officer. They went to church together, where he seemed quiet and showed her less affection than normal. She asked him what was wrong, but he didn't explain. She guessed it was just the normal stress from work and didn't question him further. They stopped by Pizza Hut and watched Netflix at home. Then, he suggested they go out to see a movie in Bend. The only strange detail she noticed, other than him being withdrawn, was that he had the windows on the car cracked open.
Through this whole time up to when you're going to the movie, anything stand out to you?
You know what I just thought about right now? He had the windows cracked open. He never did that.
Okay.
And I asked him about that, and he said, oh, it's hot.
The next day, however, things changed. She suspected nothing wrong until he disrupted their morning routine. He painted a vivid picture of guilt and panic, describing to his wife a horrific accident. He claimed that he accidentally hit a woman with his campus security car. He had panicked and had hidden her body. Isabel was confused. Why would someone hide the evidence of a tragic accident? After he had confessed to his wife, Edwin took her service weapon and drove off, leaving her to worry that he might do something to hurt himself. At 11:52 a.m. on Monday, July 25th, she took her fears to the police. Following up on Edwin's claims, the police searched the couple's property. They discovered a trash bag of female belongings in Laura's shed, just as he had told Isabel. These included a green purse soaked in blood, containing an ID card belonging to none other than missing woman Kaylee Sawyer. They also found bloodied clumps of blonde hair and a rock, also stained with blood. The police already had reason to doubt Laura's story, as his wife had. One lieutenant said, "Some people leave the scene of accidents because they're scared, but they return a short time later," or something like that. But that's not what Ed did. And here in Laura's shed was evidence to suggest his car was not all that he'd hit Kaylee with. The red-stained rock was bagged as a potential murder weapon, and the disappearance of Kaylee Sawyer had suddenly become a murder inquiry. The main suspect was nowhere to be found, but in the shed was further evidence of the macabre and troubled mind that could have committed such a crime. Laura had studied criminal justice. Propped against the wall of the shed was a college psychology project, a graphic informational poster on the Railroad Killer. The Railroad Killer was a Mexican serial killer active in the 1990s. He was a drifter hopping trains to avoid detection as he murdered at least 15 people across the United States and Mexico. Laura's poster was smeared with red paint to mimic blood spatter and handprints, along with graphic images of victims' bodies. The Railroad Killer's weapon of choice was whatever came closest to hand, including heavy rocks. It was a chilling parallel with the way police now believed Kaylee Sawyer might have died, and a hint of her suspected killer's fascination with murder. Police returned to Isabel to learn more about Edwin Lara's character. They asked if he was a drinker, had anger issues, or had ever been violent. She told them that she and her husband had stopped drinking when they went back to church and that Lara had never been violent towards her. However, Lara had been having an affair. He had family in California and had been seeing a woman there while Isabel was in the police academy. According to Isabel, he had begged for her forgiveness and they were working through it. Lara's co-workers told a more sinister story. At work, in security at the community college, he had showed nude photos of himself and his mistress to his colleagues and reportedly had a fascination with dead bodies. This made one female cadet so uncomfortable that she refused to ride in a car with him. Isabel, however, wanted to keep him close. After she learned about the affair, she went on several ride-alongs with Lara at his work. He usually drove around alone in the campus security car. He showed his wife areas around town that were out of the way, hidden from public view. He knew the back roads of the area intimately. By this point, the police knew that they were looking for Kaylee's body, and with this new information, it was clear he could have hidden her anywhere. It was a lead on locating her remains, but even more urgent was finding the killer himself, and the police had no idea where he could have fled to. Edwin Lara knew he was in trouble. The story he had told Isabel was not holding up, and even if the police had believed it, he'd still be guilty of a crime. He went on the run, and his desperate attempts to remain free led to a crime spree that sowed terror across 2 states. The first person to fall victim to Lara's murderous desperation was 19-year-old Andrea Mays. Andrea was working at a Ross Dress for Less in Salem, Oregon, a town a few hours northeast of Bend. At 8:45 p.m. after a 12-hour shift, she got into her car and relaxed for a moment on social media. She took a selfie to post on Snapchat and was reading a Facebook message from a friend when Edwin Lara decided to make her his next victim. Edwin was armed with his wife's gun, carrying a backpack, and wearing a bulletproof vest. He shoved his arm through the open window of Andrea's car and demanded that she take him where he wanted to go at gunpoint. Fearing for her life, she had no choice but to do as he said. He told her he had been waiting in the parking lot for a while, waiting for a woman he could carjack. He had spoken to a pregnant woman who had brushed him off, boasting to Andrea, "Little does she know what I could have done to her." He claimed to be a cop, telling Andrea, "I don't know if you heard what happened to the girl I just killed." Gone was the tearful demeanor he had displayed for his wife. His violence was now a source of notoriety and even pride. After an hour, Lara told Andrea to pull over because she was driving too fast. He handcuffed her to the gear shift and drove himself, terrified that he would be stopped for speeding. They continued for several hours until they reached a motel in Southern Oregon. He forced her to pretend to be his girlfriend, holding her hand, threatening that he'd kill both her and the motel clerk if she didn't act as though everything was fine. She'd visibly begin crying, but the motel clerk noticed nothing wrong and allowed them to check in to the motel. In the motel room, he handcuffed her to the bed frame and forced her to swallow sleeping pills. She tried her hardest to stay awake, terrified that he would assault her while she slept. Suddenly, her phone alarm sounded. Lara panicked, sure someone was calling Andrea to find out where she was. She thought quickly. She told him she had an STI and that the alarm was to remind her to take her medication. After that, he didn't touch her. But he did become increasingly paranoid about helicopters being sent to find him. He left the motel, taking Andrea with him as a human shield. She was out in the open once again, but was Andrea any safer from assault or even murder at the hands of her abductor? They were soon to meet Edwin Lara's third victim. Andrea's car was leaking oil, so Lara decided they needed to steal a new one. In the parking lot of a new motel in Wairika, California, a wildlife photographer named Jack Levy was loading up his car. He was in the area to take photographs of butterflies. With his hostage Andrea in tow, Lara burst into Levy's room, demanding the man's car keys, but Levy refused, instead yelling for help. Desperate to avoid detection and with nothing left to lose, Edwin Lara shot Levy in the abdomen. As Levy fell to the ground, Lara fled with Andrea, dragging her on foot to a nearby gas station. In need of new wheels to continue his getaway, Lara targeted a family parked there. 17-year-old Nima Gavimi and his grandmother and younger brother. Lara threw Andrea into the car and then carjacked Nima at gunpoint, saying, "Drive or I'll shoot." Nima, scared for the lives of himself and his family, drove. As they drove, Lara engaged his victims in a bizarre conversation. He asked them if they had ever had an urge to kill. He blamed his own urge for what he'd done. 15 minutes later, he released the terrified family, though Andrea remained in his grasp. His behavior became increasingly erratic.
All right, so that's all I wanted to say.
You
I don't
need
want.
any kind of medical or?
Yeah, well, I think so. I'm gonna need my inhaler. I forgot my inhaler at home.
Edwin, how fast are you going?
I'm going about 120 miles an hour
About
right now.
120 miles an hour?
Yes.
Can you slow down?
Well, I want to make it there quick. That way I can turn myself in.
Well, the officer sees you. We just don't want you to speed away from anything. If you can stop and just give yourself in, it'll probably be easier.
Well, there's an officer behind me right now.
Okay, they see you. We're talking to them. They see you.
Yeah, she's seeing me. I think it's a she. She's right behind me.
Okay. The officer sees you, and are you able to safely stop?
Yeah, I can stop, but not right now. I'll stop in Corning.
What's the difference from stopping now and Corning?
I just don't want to stop right here in the middle of the road, putting myself in danger and putting everybody else in danger, more in danger, I guess.
They won't. They're aware. I'll let them know they won't. But if you can stop safely, they just don't want you to run. They think you're trying to run or anything.
Okay.
Edwin, do you have any weapons with you?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I do have a gun on me. I am not going to flash the gun, so you tell them not to shoot me.
Okay.
No, I don't want to die.
Okay, you stick by your word, though. I'll let them know.
Yeah, I'm going to let them know. Don't hurt Andrea. She's a nice girl. Don't hurt her. I'm actually calling my family just to say bye to them. So once I'm done calling all my family, then I'll turn myself in.
Okay, we can get a hold of your family if you want.
I already called my wife. I called a lot of people already. I am wanted for the death of Kaylee Sawyer at Bend, Oregon. I just want to say that it was an accident. So I work for Campus Public Safety there, and she was really drunk, and I didn't see her, and I ran her over.
Okay.
And then after that, I just she was still breathing, and then she was screaming, and I decided to silence her forever. Just,
So,
I know this is being recorded, and I just want to say to the family of Kaylee that I am sorry. I'm sorry for what I did to her, and in time I will tell them where the body is. I will just, that way she can rest in peace.
do you want to let me know, or just have this recorded where it is?
No, I remember.
Okay.
So, hopefully the police officer doesn't shoot me, and I'll survive,
Yeah.
He tried to use both Andrea and his knowledge of Kaylee's whereabouts as leverage to protect himself.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Andrea. Are you
Hi.
okay? You don't need any medical or anything?
No.
Okay, so Edwin, where's his gun at? Does he have it still between his legs?
I don't know.
Can you see it? He said he had it between his legs. Is he stopping?
Yeah.
He is stopping?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, make sure your hands are up too and stuff. I know you're on the phone right now, but just hold your hand up so they can see your hands too.
Okay.
I'm going to stay on the line with you until the officers get there, okay? And you're going to be okay. Andrea?
Mm-hmm.
Does he have his hands up?
Yeah.
He does have his hands up? Okay. Just tell him to make sure that the officers...
Hey, who are you? Tell him I can't.
He said he can't hear her.
Do I get out or do I?
Tell him we're letting the officers know that he can't hear her.
He's already walking towards them.
He's walking towards him. Tell him to make sure he holds his hands up.
Yeah, he is.
He is. Tell him to turn around and don't walk towards him. He can walk backwards towards him.
I can't. He's too far.
Okay. And if you want to do the same, once he gets out and stuff, just turn around and walk backwards towards him. Don't walk facing him.
Okay. Do I stay on the line with you?
Once you get out, I'll go ahead and disconnect the line. Once you get out, can you see, do they have him in custody already?
They're putting the cuffs on him right now.
Putting the cuffs on him?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hang up and just get out, and you walk backwards towards him with your hands up, okay?
Okay.
Okay, Andrea, it's going to be okay.
Finally, the operator convinced him that the police would not hurt him. So he stopped his car, and at 7:01 a.m. Tuesday, July 26th, he was taken into custody. After a terrifying crime spree across 2 states and nearly 24 hours, 5 of his 6 victims were alive to tell the tale. Jack Levy was in hospital in critical condition, but he would go on to make a full recovery. Kaylee Sawyer had not been so lucky.
But I want to get home first. Okay, so here's what I know about this. Hear me out, sir. We can't change what happened, the 3 of us in this room. And people will care more about what happens right now than what happened before. So we know that you've been talking to some people, et cetera, right? And because we have different jurisdictions, I can assure you that right now the DA's office is working on allowing us to take you back to Oregon, okay? But they're still working on that, okay? So in the meantime, we need to consider some things, okay? If this information gets to other people that you were like, hell yeah, I'm gonna tell you, but only until I get what I want, they might try to think of this about something different than what it is.
They worked to gain his trust.
I don't think you're a bad guy, right? I think that things have spun completely out of control, sir. Sir, am I right? Okay. But that being said, you know from your training and your education that we have a massive load of resources right now dedicated to one thing, and that's to serve the victim's family, okay? And they need that, and they need that right now. And so I need you to remember that it doesn't matter so much about what happened, it's what you do now.
Yeah. And you know this, man.
Finally, he indicated the location on a map. Police sped toward the scene, and on July 26th, 2 days after she went missing, the body of Kaylee Sawyer was discovered beside a highway in Oregon.
A tragic update to bring to you tonight in the disappearance of Bend resident Kaylee Sawyer. Police now say they found a body and they believe that to be Sawyer's body. Now, Edwin Lara has been arrested yesterday in connection with this. Edwin Lara is a 31-year-old Redmond resident currently employed at COCC working as a part-time campus public safety officer. We've recently learned that Lara's wife, Isabel Pons Lara, as I mentioned, is a Bend police officer who yesterday morning reported her husband's potential involvement in this.
At the medical examiner's office, it was determined she had been killed by blunt force trauma. The condition of her body was so horrific that the police advised her family not to look at the autopsy photos. In a car Lara had abandoned in Salem moments before kidnapping Andrea, the police discovered 2 notes. In chilling handwriting, Lara had described where he had killed her and written another note that read, "This note is to say I'm sorry for taking her life. To her dad, I'm sorry. To her mom, I'm sorry. It was an accident. She screamed and I had to silence her. My intention was not forever. To my wife, I'm sorry. I will forever love you." The evidence painted a conflicting picture. He was unquestionably guilty of murder, but he was displaying pride as well as remorse for what he had done. The answers lay in Lara's police interview. First, he maintained the story he had told his wife, that he had accidentally hit Kaylee, who was drunk.
I was in a hurry because I wanted to get out of it. And I was going to turn south on College Way on the B4 lot. So I was going to turn south on the area there. And I didn't see her. She was wearing all black. So I was in a hurry, so it was my fault. And I wasn't expecting anybody, at that time of night. So I just turned and I didn't hit her that hard. I just bumped her with the patrol car, bumped her with the front rack, and she fell down. And at first I thought, I killed her, but I didn't hit her that hard. So I got off the car, and she was really drunk. And then she looks at me, and then she started screaming.
She started screaming at you?
She did. So I panicked, and I just grabbed her by the throat.
But the detectives now knew this wasn't true. They kept pushing him for answers. He admitted to choking her to silence her. Then he admitted to assaulting her when he thought she was already dead. He was trying to paint a picture of panic and spontaneity, but the police knew better.
So a couple things you need to understand, and we're finally getting to the real problem here, we really are, is you knew she was never getting out the car the moment you shut that door. Well, let me finish. You need to let me finish, right? Because I know this, okay? Because you said we were hookers. She's like, no. Immediately you go to give me your purse and your phone.
Well, I knew she wasn't going to get out.
She wasn't going to survive that encounter, was she?
No.
Because you can't leave and let her live, can you?
And she can't make a phone call if you have it.
I wasn't going to.
Well, you can't let her live.
Edwin, we're missing something here, man.
Look, yeah, I know what you guys are thinking, and it makes perfect sense. It does.
Because why would you ask for her purse? What was in your head that made you want her purse?
Because,
just in case she had a gun, she could defend herself.
She was going to use her phone
to call 911. Call for help.
So, but listen to this. According to your story, this is where it does not make sense. If your intent isn't already there to do some kind of harm or some kind of evil to her, some friggin' evil that's there, bro. It's there. You just gotta face it down, man. You can't cower away from it. You face that damn thing down right now. If you know the only way, if you don't have intent in her head, your thought is, I gotta keep that phone away from her because she's gonna call from help before anything bad's even happened. You've already made a decision. Am I right or am I wrong? Help me.
So I made the decision at that time to silence her.
To kill her. Let's be real. When you say silence her, you mean kill her. Is that correct?
Okay. Because
when did you make that decision?
When she started screaming. Because she had seen my face.
But you already grabbed her phone. You already kept her away from making a call for help or contacting someone. So you're already preserving yourself. So I'm thinking it's before. When you ask for the purse, I think you already know in your head, I'm going to silence her. I'm going to kill her. Why else would you ask?
So when she gave me her, like she had her phone, because I knew her phone was back there. Like it just clicked on my head, and I put her purse back there. Her phone is in there, you know. So I told her, give me the purse. So then
Tell me exactly how you said, give me your purse. Say it exactly how you said it.
Okay, so I want to give me your fucking purse.
Just like that?
Just like that.
Okay.
So she hands over the purse, and I'm like, your phone is not in here. And she goes, yes, it is. So I start digging in the purse with this hand, and I find the phone, and it's there. So, and, you know, very relieved, but at this time she's struggling with the door, and I'm telling her, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up.
You know why you felt relieved when you found that phone? You know why? Tell me why you felt relieved.
She wasn't calling her out.
And she was never going to get away.
Because she had seen my face already.
She was already seen your face. And you already knew what you were going to do.
No.
You were going to silence her. You already told us that.
Well, yeah, but...
Why else would you grab her phone?
Because from the moment, that's when I knew that she wasn't a hooker. You know?
And she's going to tell. She's going to say something.
If I let her out of the car, she's going to go say, hey, you know, security guard or something.
Throughout his crime spree, Lara had chosen his victims deliberately.
Do you have dominion over a woman?
Dominion?
Mm-hmm. Dominant. Is there anything about her life that means less than yours?
No.
Okay. But you told us earlier when you were trying to carjack people in Salem, you wanted a woman who was weaker.
Weaker woman because I knew a guy was going to fight me and I didn't want to kill anybody.
Right. So you have dominion.
The police brought in a pastor to appeal to Lara's religion for a clearer confession.
The sound that you heard after the strike of the first rock, before you hit her with the second, is agonal breathing, and you know this. It's a sound of life leaving her body. It's a sound of the life God breathed into her, leaving her, and her life being no more, going away, being done. It's a sound of everyone loving her, mourning. It's a sound of her blood crying out from the friggin' earth. Right? You know this. It's Cain and Abel. No. No. You know what it is? You need to hear it though. Okay? I respect you enough, Edwin, at this point, that I've asked you for detail, and now I'm going to give you my own. Okay? Those are the cold, hard facts. Does God still love you? Will He forgive you? Will He bring you back into His heart? Will He? Questions you have to answer for yourself. But the truth of the matter is that her blood cries out, man. That her life is gone. It will never be replaced. The truth of the fact is this. What you mistook for a hooker was an absolute angel. Was the apple of her mom and dad's eye. Was the breath that they breathed, that they spent and cultivated all their life raising and growing. And she is gone forever.
Finally, Lara cracked. He confessed to the horror that lay inside him, the urge to kill.
I think all throughout my life, I have struggled with somehow the urge to kill. But what has helped me not develop that, in a sense, was when I married my wife. It kind of dissipated because I had something to look forward to. Before that, I didn't have nothing to look forward to.
Is this addressed to Dad?
Yeah, the last one is for CLCC.
Okay. I think it would play pretty well on recording if we read this out loud. It might show some of your emotion. Might show...
Want me to read it?
I would love you to read it. Thank you, sir.
I've been trying to ask Katie for forgiveness, but I don't think her soul hears my crying because God doesn't allow the devil to talk to angels. However, I know Katie hears you, and if you find it within your heart, please ask her to forgive me. I know that I will spend the rest of my life asking God to forgive me, but I don't think He will. Sir, this is directed to her dad. I am not sure what your name is, but I know for a fact that you loved your daughter. I read something that you were desperately looking for her, and that touched the little heart I have within me. I say little heart a little bit because a man like me don't have a heart. A man like me doesn't deserve the job I had, and I will never have it again. The COCC, no one has to pay for my evil doing. Every officer on the campus are a great man and woman. I am sorry to my community. I am sorry because I failed you. I am sorry for wearing the badge.
In the early hours of July 24th, Kaylee Sawyer had walked away from the apartment she shared with her boyfriend and came upon Laura's campus security SUV. Labeled for public safety in a peaceful town like Bend, she would not have felt afraid getting into the car. It's unknown why she did, but it was the last tragic decision she would ever make. Inside, Laura propositioned her, offering her money. When she refused, he took her purse and phone. The car was the only car in the campus security fleet to be equipped with an interior cage like a police car. She could not escape. Instead, she was helpless when Laura choked her into unconsciousness before driving her to one of the dark, less-traveled back roads he was familiar with from his work. When she woke up again and tried desperately to attract attention, screaming and shouting, there was no one around to hear her. Still, Laura choked her out again to silence her. Then he smashed a rock into her head and assaulted her, believing she was dead. He hit her again and again until he'd killed her. And then he left to clean himself of evidence before throwing her body in a ditch. Kaylee Sawyer had been robbed of her life by a man who had given in to his most evil impulses. All that remained was to get justice for her murder. Prosecutors faced an obstacle. Laura's disturbing confession was ruled inadmissible because of a misunderstanding around whether he had been offered a lawyer or not. But even without the confession, the physical evidence and witnesses were undeniable.
Number one, to have our Kaylee back with us, alive and well, and pursuing her life. Number two, I wish to have this piece of garbage, the defendant, sentenced to death for what he's done to my Kaylee. And number three, I wish the court system in the state of Oregon would just hand him over to me and allow me to administer the death sentence.
In January 2018, Edwin Lara pled guilty to aggravated murder and grand robbery and was sentenced to life without parole.
Today, I've seen your pain. Today, I've seen your hate. I don't have much to say to you at this moment. I only have a single prayer. It's something I'd like to speak to whoever's willing to listen. God Almighty, who art in heaven, oh Elohim Adonai.
In 2019, he was handed a second life sentence for the kidnapping and carjacking of Andrea Mays. He had committed awful crimes without any reason other than the urge to do it. Who knows what further evils he might have done if he hadn't been stopped by the efforts of Andrea, Isabel, and the 911 operator who convinced him to turn himself in. In 2019, the Oregon legislature passed Kaylee's Law. This law, campaigned for by Kaylee's family, was intended to ensure such a horrible fate could never befall another young person trusting that campus security would keep them safe. Lara had displayed several signs that he was dangerous, and his employers had done nothing about it, allowing him to continue to drive the vehicle with which he posed as a police officer. Kaylee's Law ensures that campus security in Oregon can never be mistaken for police again, and that someone like Edwin Lara will not be in a position of trust, abused for the sake of murder.
She was my first first grandchild. And she's very special. Kaylee was a warrior. But like I said at her memorial, she didn't carry a bow and arrow or a tomahawk. She carried a smile, and she carried love. And that's the kind of warrior she was.
What are your thoughts on this disturbing story? Did Lara truly feel remorse, or was it just an act? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. In October 2020, a woman from Seattle visited Dallas as a tourist. She went out in the city alone looking for some nighttime company, and she found it. It's a typical story. She was young, vulnerable, alone in a city she didn't know late at night. When she never returned home, all eyes turned to the CCTV footage and the mystery man she left with.
It was just supposed to be a weekend trip. She was supposed to fly back on Monday morning.
But this was no ordinary case. When Maricela Botello went home with Charles Beltran, she put aside any natural suspicion of a stranger. No one could have predicted that she'd never be heard from again. What happened to her that night? And was it a mistake to trust this stranger? A jealous rage, an escape to Cambodia, and a murderous menage a trois. This is the truth of Maricela Botello's disappearance.
Ms. Dykes, I hope that you find that you've been treated with a much greater amount of dignity and respect than you ever treated Maricela Botello. May God have mercy on your soul.
Maricela Botello was an ordinary 23-year-old woman. She lived in Seattle with her parents and her little brother, where she was working hard so she could afford to return to school. She wanted to study to be a nutritionist. Her trip to Dallas would be a break from the pressure of work and her future ambitions. Her family was apprehensive about her traveling alone, but in the middle of the pandemic, tickets were cheap, and she wanted some time away. The last time her mother ever saw her, she was getting ready to leave the house in a taxi to the airport at 6 a.m. October 2nd, 2020.
No, Uber. She left at 6 a.m. and I saw her when she was picking up her suitcase, and she was so happy that she was coming to Dallas.
Maricela was booked on a flight back to Seattle on Monday morning, October 5th. Her last night away, the Sunday night, she wanted to make the most of being away from home. But her friend Raul Ortiz had passed out outside his apartment after partying a little too hard. She wasn't ready for the night to finish, so she went outside into Deep Ellum to party alone. Maricela's mother described her as friendly and joyous. She believed the best in people, outgoing and outspoken, and so it was no surprise that she got talking to the people she met outside bars that night in Deep Ellum. Charles Beltran was one such person. This security footage of the two of them in a 7-Eleven after leaving the bar is the last sighting of Maricela Botello. That is, until her body was discovered 6 months later. In March 2021, a witness stumbled upon human remains on the edge of the woods in Wilmer, a rural area 20 miles southeast of Dallas. They found bone fragments and a skull. This skull the police were able to identify as the skull of Maricela Botello. But how did she get from a bar in Deep Ellum to the woods in Wilmer? Her remains were so decomposed that her manner of death was unclear. Who had killed her? And what did the mysterious man on the CCTV footage, Charles Beltran, have to do with it? When he met Maricela outside a Deep Ellum bar in October 2020, Charles Beltran was 31. Also known as Chuck, he was an aspiring rapper and was working on a mixtape, according to his Instagram. That very night, October 4th, he had performed a rap show and was out in Deep Ellum to celebrate with his friends. He was looking for a good time, the same way Maricela was. He found her smoking outside a nightclub, and they struck up a conversation. Then, the two charismatic young people went back to his home together. But in the early hours that same night, Shortly before Maricela was due to fly home, the casual hookup went horribly, tragically wrong. As Charles tells it, he woke up to the sound of screaming. Maricela in the bed beside him was being stabbed. And who was stabbing her? None other than Charles's girlfriend, Lisa Dykes, in a jealous rage to find Charles in bed with somebody else.
This just from all the movement going on in the bed. That's when I wake up and I see Lisa on top of her.
What is she doing?
She's like with the knife coming down like this.
She had grabbed a kitchen knife and launched herself at Maricela, stabbing her in her sleep. Charles woke up and tried to push Lisa away. Both Lisa and Maricela rolled off the bed, and Charles pinned Lisa to the wall, shouting at her.
I looked towards Lisa and I grabbed Lisa and I pinned her to the wall, and I'm like, what the F are you doing, you know? And she's like, I told you not to bring any more girls over here.
It wasn't Charles that Maricela should have been afraid of. It was Charles's girlfriend. But this wasn't a simple case of jealousy and infidelity. To understand Lisa's attack on Maricela, we need to go back to the beginning of her relationship with Charles, which was non-traditional from the start. In his late 20s, Charles was working as a doorman at a bar. This bar was owned by Lisa Dykes' son. Lisa herself was in her 50s at the time, and there were substantial differences between Lisa and Charles's lifestyles. Charles was a convicted felon without a stable income. He spent a lot of time going between parties and chatting up women as he tried to get his rap career off the ground. On the door at the bar, he was earning about $100 a night. Lisa, however, was a litigation paralegal. Perhaps Charles was attracted to the prestige of her legal career. Perhaps Lisa found the younger man exciting. Either way, they struck up a relationship around 2016. Lisa came in to see her hairstylist one morning and told her about the younger men she had met.
She came in one morning and basically said that she had met a guy named Chuck. The first couple of times that she talked about him, she kind of mentioned, kind of laughingly, like it was her boy toy.
Lisa started taking Charles out for expensive dinners and using her own income to provide for his rap career.
He moves in, you buy him all that studio equipment.
Yes.
That's true.
Absolutely.
He sets up a studio in your house.
He does.
And is he working at first?
He did. He was extremely devoted to it. He kept a whiteboard on the wall. He had scheduled songs that he was doing, scheduled recording times. He had someone coming over to help him produce. So he was actually doing what he was supposed to do.
She set him up with a recording studio and provided him with a car. She would take care of anything material he wanted, and he would provide her with companionship. It was mutually beneficial.
Yes, I mean, when she met Chuck, she kind of started changing.
Lisa, who at the time had long blonde hair, had her hairstylist shave the sides of her head and color her hair platinum.
She came in one day and, you know, of course she had like longer blonde hair. I always did highlights in her hair. And she comes in one day and she's like, hey, I'm ready to do something completely different. And I was like, okay, well, you know, to most hairdressers, doing something different, it's like, we're going to put some low lights in their hair, you know. But she wanted me to completely shave the sides of her head. But I asked her, I was like, how are you going to get away with that at work? I mean, you know, that seems a little inappropriate to do that. She was like, oh, it's okay, you know, it'll be fine. So I thought that was like really interesting that she would go from like wearing this beautiful long blonde hair to, you know, almost having no hair at all.
She also started getting tattoos. This was a drastic change that didn't fit with her professional circumstances as a woman with a serious legal career, but instead suggested she was getting in touch with a wilder side of herself.
Chuck has a lot of tattoos, doesn't he?
Yes.
In fact, the one that's right there on your wrist, if you'll show that to the jury, please. And we're talking about the one right there on your wrist, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one right there.
Right.
You're aware that Chuck has that same tattoo, doesn't he?
He does. Yes, he does.
Okay. So you are a 57-year-old woman investing in a rapper's career. You don't have any personal relationship at all, but you get a matching tattoo.
The tattoo is actually the logo for the business that I started for him that I'm invested in, math class. That's what the tattoo is.
Lisa was also becoming less responsible. Her daughter Chelsea had been living with her when she met Charles. But soon after the relationship began, Lisa convinced her daughter to move to Florida.
And I was like, why? And she says, well, she goes, I'm ready to live the life that I want, and I can't do it with her here.
And she said that in front of Chelsea?
Yes.
And Chelsea heard her?
She did.
It was soon after this that Charles moved in with Lisa. Clearly, Lisa didn't like having anyone else involved in her relationship with the younger man. But there was an exception to this jealous streak, and a further twist in the tale of Charles and Lisa's tangled relationship. Lisa had been friends with a woman in her 40s named Nina Morano for a while. Nina Morano was a prestigious lawyer who had attended Columbia University and was living in Pennsylvania. In 2019, Lisa began talking about her friend Nina almost constantly, while she rarely mentioned Charles. Nina would come to visit her in Texas, while Lisa occasionally went to see her in Pennsylvania as well.
It was all about her and Nina. So one day she came in and she told me that Nina was coming in town. And I was like, okay, so all you're talking about is Nina. Are y'all together? And she goes, well, yeah. And I was like, yeah, but girl, you're not into women. She goes, yeah, but Nina can give me everything that I've ever wanted.
In 2020, Nina and Lisa got married.
Is that Nina and Lisa's unified vows?
Yes.
Okay, and then at the bottom it just mentions Nina, Lisa, and Chuck closing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at the bottom it says, we are hers, we are one.
We love each other. We love each other like sisters. Like, this is a unique relationship. I think we might think about marriage, Nina and I do, maybe differently than the average person. Not every marriage is based on sex or, that physical connection. Nina and I are supportive of each other in every way other than that.
Charles was still in the picture, however. When Nina moved into Lisa's house, Charles did not move out. The three of them lived together in a relationship. The hairstylist remembers one occasion she went to the house where the throuple lived, and she saw something that horrified her. Lisa was showing her some dresses in the bedroom closet.
When you were walking out of, that closet, what did you see?
So as I turn around, literally straight across from me, when I turn around out of the closet, I see an altar, and it had this big statue thing that to me resembled like a Grim Reaper. And I completely freaked out. I didn't want to show how scared I was, but I just froze when I saw it. And so, she bumps into me. She's like, Kat, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm looking back at her and I'm looking at this thing and I don't know what to say. And she goes, what's wrong? And I was like, and I pointed at her, I was like, are you into witchcraft? And she goes, well, I've dabbled in it.
This respectable paralegal had undergone a complete personality change over only a few years. Lisa and her two partners were mixing up with the occult, and she was becoming angry and jealous over this three-way relationship that she herself had started. Charles had a reputation as a ladies' man, and this didn't stop even when they were living together.
As far as him bringing women, were you jealous about him bringing women?
Absolutely not. He particularly seemed to like having a friend of his, a male friend of his, come over to be with the girls that he brought home. So that's basically two guys and a girl.
And he would brag about it?
Absolutely.
What, did that make you jealous?
No.
In the summer of 2020, Lisa came to a hair appointment and told her stylist that she had caught Nina and Charles in bed together.
She was like, I could just kill her.
A figure of speech or a precursor to the jealous rage yet to come?
After you have sex, what happens next?
We chill, chop it up, talk for a little bit, smoke a cigarette. Well, I smoke a cigarette. And
did she smoke cigarettes?
No, she didn't.
She didn't smoke any cigarettes while you were there?
Not around me.
Okay. And smoke cigarettes, talk, chat a little bit, then what?
Fell asleep.
Were you aware that she had to leave the next day to catch a flight?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, was it your plan to wake her up and take her back wherever she needed to be?
I mean, at that time, we wasn't even thinking.
When Lisa and Nina came home in the early hours of October 5th to find Charles in bed with Maricela, Lisa flew into a frenzy.
So you're asleep. Tell me what happens next.
I wake up to her screaming, saying, "Help me, help me." And I look up, and it's just from all the movement going on in the bed. That's when I wake up and I see Lisa on top of her.
What is she doing?
She's like with the knife coming down like this. And once I notice the knife, that's when I push Lisa off of her.
And what happens when you push Lisa off of her?
I mean, just my reaction was just to push her, and I pushed her hard. And her and Maricela like tumble over. I see Lisa still grabbing her. I jump over the bed, and as I come over to the bed, I'm trying to pry Lisa off of her, pull her apart. And Lisa got to like her hair or something to where she can't. She's trying to like get off of her, and I'm trying to pry them apart. You know how it's like if you hold something and somebody's trying to pull and you like let it go?
Yeah.
Like Maricela just ends up, as I'm pulling them off, it's like Lisa just kind of like let go, and she just tumbles over. She tumbles over and she falls on the bed. Then I look behind me, she falls on the bed, and I look towards Lisa, and I grab Lisa, and I pin her to the wall, and I'm like, what the F are you doing, you know? And she just said that, I told you not to bring any more girls over here while you're disrespecting us. I do everything for you. And she was just like, you need to get your little...
Say it.
Your little bitch, and y'all need to leave now. I said, that's all you had to say, you know? And as I turn around, I'm fixing to tell Maricela, like, let's go. And she's just there. In my mind, I'm like, this can't be happening. I go to the restroom. I come out of the room, and I come to the restroom, turn the light on. I throw water on my face, trying to like tell myself like, wake up, you know, like this is not happening. Throw water on my face, and that's when I realized I'm still naked. I drop the towel, I put the towel on, come back in, and Lisa's just still standing there, like, just looking at her, just staring at her.
Charles first told Lisa they had to call 911, but Lisa refused.
I could hear her saying something, like, I can't recall what she's saying, but it sounds like she's saying, like, what did I do? What did I do? As I come in, like, I see the whole scene again, and I yell at Lisa. I'm like, Lisa, and she's like not snapping out of it. She's just like staring. I'm like, Lisa, you have to call 911. She's like, no, like hold on, think about what you're doing before you do it. And to me, like registering that, I was just thinking about the whole scene. Like, I'm with her, I'm the last one with her. She's in my room. You know, it looks like I did something. So yeah, I was just like, you need to figure this shit out. You told me to leave. Like, you did this shit. Like, you need to. I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? I can't deal with this. Like, it was just so much to deal with. And I put my clothes on and grabbed my stuff and left.
At first, Maricela's family and the police were clueless as to what had happened to her. Lisa and Nina, who worked together to cover up the crime, were smart, but evidence remained. An analysis of phone records showed that all four parties, Charles, Nina, Lisa, and the victim, Maricela, had been in that same house on the morning of October 5th. Phone records also showed that Nina and Lisa had traveled together to an area south of Dallas that same night, a wooded area, for disposing the body. When he returned a few days later, no sign of the crime remained, and the body of Maricela, who had simply picked the wrong man to go home with that night, was gone.
At some point in the days after, did you talk to her?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you talked to her, was Nina on the phone as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did y'all say?
They were just asking me where have I been, am I okay, come back home, everything's okay.
And when they said come back home, what did they tell you about how the home was?
They said it's back to normal. Everything's good, just come home.
Did they tell you what happened to Maricela?
No, ma'am, but I mean, I figured.
Did you return back to the house?
Eventually I did.
And what did you do when you returned?
I didn't want to be around them, so I went when they weren't there. I packed me some clothes and stuff and left.
What's your room look like?
Spotless. Like nothing ever happened.
They had also cleaned the house, but when it was searched, police discovered streaks of blood hidden underneath the carpet. DNA confirmed the blood to be Maricela's blood. The lab also matched a hair found in the trunk of Charles and Lisa's car to Maricela's DNA. She had been killed in Lisa, Nina, and Charles's house, and their shared car had been used to transport her body to the woods where it was found. Lisa and Nina fled to Florida after the killing, where they'd resumed their legal careers as though nothing had happened. But after Maricela's remains were discovered in March 2021, justice began to catch up with them. Nina was arrested on March 25th in Miami. Lisa was arrested 2 days later. Charles, who had not followed his partners to Florida, but had instead gone on the run across multiple states, was arrested in Utah in April. Maricela's family thought that soon they would see justice for her cruel murder. But Lisa and Nina were determined to escape the law. On Christmas Day 2021, they managed to remove their ankle monitors, which were a condition of their bail. The same day, they flew to Cambodia together to start a new life. They had thousands of dollars in cash, and it was through these cash withdrawals and a convenience store surveillance camera that they were finally caught.
The travel records, the flight records, indicated that they did fly into Cambodia, but we also wanted to check Cambodian immigration records to make sure that they hadn't departed Cambodia, moving on elsewhere. So we worked with the immigration department to confirm that they, at least officially, were still in Cambodia. Then we also received information from Bank of America that they were using, Lisa and Nina were using their Bank of America ATM cards at various banks in Cambodia.
All three of them faced trial, but in the end, it was Lisa who was at the center of this case. Lisa, whose jealousy and strange possessive behavior had led to such a tragedy. The cases against Nina and Charles were dropped as they pled guilty to evidence tampering, and Charles testified against Lisa. But Lisa denied it all.
Was it a love interest thing?
No. Chuck was and continued to always be a business interest that went sideways.
Did you go into the room and stab Maricela?
No.
Did you struggle with Maricela?
No, absolutely not. No.
Did you argue with Chuck about Maricela?
No.
Had you ever met Maricela?
No.
She denied she'd even met Maricela Botello or that she and Nina had been in a physical relationship with Charles. Lisa let her hair grow long again in its natural color, reversing all the dramatic changes her stylist noticed as her relationship with Charles deepened. Only by denying who she'd become over the years of her infatuation with him could she deny the jealous rage that had led her to kill an innocent 23-year-old. If she portrayed herself as a respectable paralegal in an ordinary monogamous relationship with her wife, Nina, she'd have no reason to be jealous in the first place. But this was not the case, and the jury saw through her story, returning a verdict in only 90 minutes.
Ms. Dykes, please stand. The first verdict reads as follows. We, the jury, having heretofore found the defendant, Lisa Jo Dykes, guilty of the offense of murder as charged in the indictment, and not having found by a preponderance of the evidence that such offense occurred while the defendant was under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from adequate cause, assess her punishment at life in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice and a fine of $10,000. The second verdict reads as follows. We, the jury, having found the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of tampering with physical evidence as charged in the indictment, assess her punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 20 years. In addition thereto, assess a fine in the amount of $10,000. Ms. Dykes, I hope that you find that you've been treated with a much greater amount of dignity and respect than you ever treated Maricela Bernadez. May God have mercy on your soul.
60-year-old Lisa Dykes was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. She maintains her innocence and plans to appeal. What are your thoughts on this disturbing story? What could have caused Lisa's personality change? Could Maricela's tragic death have been prevented? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.